Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We were having just a few challenges there, a few announcements that the Father is great and greatly to be praised, and that the things that He wants to deal with us in this hour are for our trajectory, not for our grounding. So we're excited this morning for the challenge because the challenge causes us to change in our hearts and in our minds to manifest the thing that the Father has on His mind. We're here for 111 days of kinetic prayer. This is Apostle Crystal Lee. I'm excited, as always, to be here with you. We are here for the mysteries of the unseen realm. This is our final days of this kinetic dimension. We're on the manifested mind. We're doing a review and Q&A. This was part 2 of that. And I pray that you have your questions already ready. If there are any questions concerning all the things that we've already done, we can go into some review concerning those things. I got Prophet Marlise in the room with me this morning. Prayerfully, our brother Apostle Ace is at his destination this morning. And so I'm going to, you guys let me know what you're hearing on your side with our mics open. Just let me know. I'm sure Elder Ricky will let me know. Good morning, Prophet Marlise. Go ahead and greet the people.
Yes, good morning, good morning. And this is a wonderful day. This is a new day, new mindsets, new endeavors, new opportunities, and better takeovers for the kingdom.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Your expression in the chat area. We give y'all glory. You guys go ahead and like the video. Go ahead and like. Okay, it is a dub. Okay, so we're gonna have to Prophet. And each other are talking. We'll have to mute in order for it to be heard this morning. That's okay. We know how to do that. And I can get excited about what you said when I get back on, and you're muted, and you can do the same. Although we love the interaction here, we love the interaction with each other. We're going to mute just so it makes it easy. Thank you for you guys to hear us. All right. So we are in day 102 of the prayer and day 97 of the fast. Can you believe that? 102 days of this dimension of kinetic prayer. That's absolutely amazing. I absolutely am excited about what the Father has done here, what He's done in us, and what He's done through us in this hour. And so let's look at our description section here for a moment, and let's kind of read what the Father has said. As sons of manifestation, our connection to the mysteries of the unseen realm is forged through our acceptance of dynamic, active relationship with Yah. Those are very key. Our acceptance of dynamic and active relationship. A lot of people are trying to do things by their works without the dynamic, active relationship. And you know what that's going to turn out to be? Self-righteousness. I'm not saying that you won't accomplish some things. I'm not saying that you won't stop smoking. I'm not saying that you won't, be delivered or you won't stop. No, let me be clear that you won't stop certain behaviors, because you can stop certain behaviors. Do enough self stuff because of how you can stop some things. You can. There are wicked people that are living every day. They're living every day, and they're living lives that are what's the word that I'm looking for? It's the word that I'm looking for right now that's eluding me. They're living good lives. That's what I'm going to say. They're living lives as good people. You know what I'm saying? There's a word that I'm looking for that's eluding me this morning, and it starts with an M. It has to do with how we live. Moral. Thank you, Holy Spirit. They're living moral lives. They have moral values, but it doesn't change who they are as a person, because what changes who we are as a person is the heart. Who we are connected to is what changed. So you can do some things morally. There are lots of people that do moral acts, but we've got to understand the difference between the moral act. Okay, I'm back now. We got to understand the difference between the moral act of things, the ability to just morally act out some things, and doing the thing because of who we are, because we're doing it from a place that is divine. This is completely different. It's not the same thing. But a lot of people are trying to do the work. So they're saying, well, you got to pray harder. You got to pray more. You got to, those are all of the things we do. We pray because of who we are. We read the word because of who we are, and we understand the value of the word of Yah. Our faith is activated because of who we are. We're not just doing actions to become something. We're doing something from a place. You understand what I'm saying? Deciding to be in constant communion or covenant with Abba is a spiritual choice. And I said this yesterday, it's the genesis, it's the beginning of a supernatural culture. It's the key to our authentic identity as sons. And it's not just choosing the activity. I was just expressing that. I'm trying my best to put that in layman's terms and explain that position is not just about the activity of things. It's choosing him that brings forth eternal results. The eternal result is a result of our choice of him. This informed incision, notice I said informed, it's an informed decision. You don't become born again and don't know what you're doing. You're not born again if you don't know what you're doing, because to choose him is an informed decision. You're purposefully, intentionally choosing him, not because you felt something emotional, but because there's a knowing that you're going off of. There's something that you know in that moment that makes you identify him as the only choice. It's not based on your emotions. And a lot of people are, having these altered experiences that are based on a lot of emotions, not understanding that none of those emotions matter in the spirit realm. They just don't. Only thing that's identified in the spirit realm is frequency, energy, not your emotion. Okay. So somebody might ask, well, what do you mean? What does the word mean when it says the effectual, fervent prayer? Right? It's a prayer that is effective. So that means you have to have the information that makes the prayer effective, right? And fervency deals with the consistency, the unwavering position of a thing, not the feeling of it, right? But we get caught up in the feeling of things, and we're thinking because I'm pressing my hands tightly together when I pray, Now that doesn't mean that we don't have expressions when we pray. We do. There are expressions, but they still stem from the heart of the man. So what is recognized in the spirit realm is the frequency and not the emotion, right? Not just the activity, I should say, because even emotion has a frequency, but I'm saying it comes out in the frequency of the situation. It's not just, what you're doing naturally. All right. So it's an informed decision to be constant in the communication, or I call it communion in action, because it is an action word. Communication is an action. Communing with Yah is an action. It's not a noun, it's an action. This is the catalyst for manifestation, the kind of manifestation that we as sons are supposed to be expressing in the earth, right? Because we know that his desire is for his kingdom to come. It should be on earth as it is in heaven. So here's the thing, we can produce some things. We need to identify or give an account for, are we producing what is in his heaven on earth? Or are we just producing spiritual things from other places in earth, right? We know that this is possible because we've seen it done repetitively over and over in the scripture. We've seen it. I don't even have to give you any examples this morning because they are repetitive. The scripture is replete with them. All of the examples of the difference between the sons of Yah and the sons of Belial, right? And how everybody's doing something, even as it pertained to Balaam. I'll just mention him. He is a prophet. However, he's not a divine prophet. He's not an oracle of Yah necessarily, but he is called upon in that age because he gets results. So he's getting results because of how he's created. He's getting results because he's utilizing, he has an awareness of his ability as man. And he knows that he goes beyond just mere mankind. He knows that. That's something that he's tapped into. When we look at the world today, we see all of these different people and all of these different religious practices tapping into realms that are unseen that cause them to manifest and to focus on their mind. I say this all the time, and I'm going to write about this. This is one of my things. A lot of times people think they have a time management issue, and it's not an issue of managing your time. It's an issue of managing your mind, because once your mind is properly in alignment with what the Father is saying and doing, you will manifest a thing, and it won't take a whole lot of time. You'll just begin to manifest. Blessings, Apostle Joanne, grace and peace. You'll just begin to manifest it because it's the will of Yah, and you've tapped into the will that manifests his mind and expresses his purposes in the earth, as it is already written in the heavens, on the books concerning you, right? It begins to resemble what's written of you. You understand what I'm saying? So that unbroken connectivity is how we're able to spiritually see and to hear. And this exposure of what we see and what we hear in him is what initiates our becoming. The word says, now, beloved, are you become the sons of Yah. And it doesn't yet appear. That means there's still a progressive becoming. We're becoming every day. Every day we're activating and expressing what we are becoming. Whether we are becoming more and more lackadaisical about who we are, or we are becoming an even greater version of ourselves as we were born to be, ever evolving into the sons that are manifesting on new levels, as we're moving into new dimensions and new realms, we're manifesting on another level. It's like when children are born, they don't have a whole lot. Now children it just depends on whose children they are, because I know my children were very advanced, and I know this age of children are very advanced, and many of you probably can say the same of your children. But children don't come out normally sitting up, right? That's a progressive work. And so this is the same way that this operates for sons. We don't come in doing specific things, but every now and then you got somebody that's exceeding a limit, and then when they exceed the limit, then everything after them begins to exceed that limit. We saw that in Roger Bannister, who ran the 4-minute mile, and then that record began to be broken, because as people are identifying and seeing that these things are possible, the mind is changing, therefore it's manifesting something different. People put limits on children all the time because they don't understand the capability of man. And it's children are closer to doing impossible things than many adults are, because they're fresh off the farm. They're fresh out of the creation farm. Okay. They don't have all the stops and the limitations and all that stuff. I was picking with my granddaughter the other day. She's going to be 5 months here in a couple of weeks. And I was talking to her on the phone, and we have whole conversations. We really do. Me and Miss Honest. And her mom was taking her sock off because she was trying to put her foot in her mouth. And so I put my foot up, and I was like, Granny can almost put her, because I could get it to my chin, but I can't quite get it to my mouth. Not that I was trying to, but just for example's sake, I was trying to show her. But, this is something that she has nothing blocking her from doing. There's a flexibility there. That's what I'm after. She has a flexibility that is not hindered, is not hampered. And as we're growing, there are things that hamper our flexibility in life, because we're seeing different things and we're doing different things that are taking us away from that pliability and that flexibility of life, right? And so then we begin to deal with the boundaries and you know what I mean? And so that's what we're really overcoming as sons. The more mature we get, we're overcoming the boundaries that maybe sometimes our circumstances have put in place. Sometimes we put in place by our choices. Sometimes we didn't choose the boundary. We were born into families who gave us those limitations. And now The limitation was put there because the Father knew there was something in you that would go after the overcoming of that limitation. It was about who you were supposed to become. And so that's why it was there. Prophet Marlise, you want to share anything?
Uh, yes. You were when you were talking, you were saying that we're we have to live out what is written of us in the book. A lot of us don't even inquire of Yah where we are in the book. You know, am I behind some pages, chapters, or what? Or am I on the page? Am I living what you've written out? We don't even inquire with Yah even about, is he all right with us? You know what I'm saying? We don't even ask him. We don't. The relationship is one sided. We don't even pose the question of care. But also with that, how we live. Are we living in the now as it is written for us for this day? And when he shows us, if you ask, he'll show you where you are. And it's essential to say, okay, if you know that you're not where you're supposed to be, then you inquire, how do I proceed to catch up? And he'll give it to you. He'll give you the things. And sometimes it be simple things. And so you have to be prepared to wrap your mind around the simple things, the simple actions, things that don't seem like it's much, but in the spiritual realm is major. But a lot of people don't think about the fact that what is written in the book has to be rewritten if you're not operating in what you were designed to do. He rewrites that page in your life based on what you do if you're not operating in what he has written about you.
Yes, Lord.
Yes, Lord.
We are
We are
actually in
in
every page.
every page.
We're actually in every page. And I laugh about it because I'm listening to the master say, "Lo, it is written of me to do your will, O God." It is written of me, you know. Now, our different individual purposes, um, we can often see a lot of parallels to the various sons of Scripture, and that's why a lot of times we find ourselves in situations where we feel like, I feel like Job today. I'm in my Job experience, or I'm in my Samuel experience, or I don't realize that I'm laying right by the altar, actually, right by the ark, and I don't really understand the voice that I'm hearing. I'm not sure, because we have to constantly be resetting ourselves. That's why he says, "Seek me." Why do we need to seek if we've already found him? Because there are many different ways that he communicates with us. It's not only one way. So the only way to really identify his voice is to continue to seek him, so we understand when his inflection changes. I'm using the inflection change as a different way of communicating, whether it is by prophet, whether it is by creation, whether it is by dream, whether, his inflection changes, the dynamics of the voice, you know, change. And if we're following, if we're seeking, then we're going to find. We're going to notice the differences in the tone of his voice. We're going to see, you know, that he's speaking in a different way. And as we learn these different ways that he speaks to us, we become um, very clear that it's not just one way. I've said it before. I've known people that were like, "Well, he know how to speak to me. He know He know how I hear. Okay, well, I'm telling you, and I would tell them, okay, I hear you. However, he speaks in different ways. He doesn't always, he speaks through his people, but if you don't believe, particularly a lot of men have this issue. I'm planning to go here this morning, but there are a lot of men that have this issue. And I'm gonna tell you, as a woman, one of the ways you'll be able to weed out whether somebody is for you or not is based on whether they're able to hear you or not. Because how can you get to favor of a woman if you can't even hear what she's saying? Her favor is not just in her just being there with you. Her favor is in the wisdom that she has to build her house. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not able to um, submit, not just expect submission, but to submit, if there's not a mutual submission there to the word of Yah in each of your mouths, to the word of Yah in who you are as a couple, as a merger, then that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. So it's every time we get that revelation or that wind of character, the nature, the mystery of who Abba is, that he allows that secret that he's revealed to become a reality, a treasure in our household, in our generations. Say the secret things belong to me. But what I reveal to you is for you and your children forever. That's a real thing. My brother that made it home. My brother. Good morning, Apostle. Good morning, Apostle Ace. He is in the place. So the imperative of seeing him as he is the only true seek. A lot of people are seeing the Father in the image that they've created him in. And this is a very serious matter because unless you are seeking him and you're in the relationship, it's an active relationship, then you're going to simply create the image of the God you want to serve. And this is happening across the board in the religious and church industrial complex. They are creating the God that they want to serve. The God that they want to serve. Absolutely. We thank y'all for safe travels. Brother, can you hear me? They are creating the image of the God that they want to serve, whatever fits and whatever suits. I'm still really saddened by, like I'm not saddened to immobility, but there is a sadness there regarding the passing of Carlton Pearson. There's a sadness there. Why? Because there was an opportunity for purpose to be fulfilled in the earth that the Father had divinely purposed. And I believe because of the conversations that he's been having with me for some time, it's not new. It's not right now just because he passed away. He's been having this conversation with me for some time, and he's been priming me for something because he said, there are a lot of people that hear my voice. I give them revelation of something, and based on who they are and how they desire to see me, they're going to either take what I gave them and manifest exactly what I've given them, or they're going to take it and they're going to manipulate it. I call it massage it into the version of what they want to hear and see in order to be okay where they are. You understand what I'm saying? And that's serious because some of the things that, I I don't even know how to express it right now. I'll express it at a later time, but it's very saddening because even on the deathbed, you are holding on to a perspective. That means that there's been a convincing. He couldn't come off mute. Okay, he'll come back in. That means there's a convincing, that's been done. There's a convincing conversation that's been had. And now because you're convinced of it, and that's how it works. Once you're convinced, that's how you begin to go and convert others, by your convincing. So you got all these loads of people who are stuck in loss of identity, And we're going to claim that that the Father is okay with where we're stuck at. He's okay with us not expressing the image that he put us in. He's okay with us expressing something outside of the image. No, he's not okay with that. But if we convince ourselves, and a lot of times this is what we do. So I'm not just saying that's his case. It's our case. It's the case of mankind. It doesn't have to be, the inclusion and the diversity and all of that happy stuff that they thought they have going on, right? But it's whatever space that we're in, our depression. And I'm just using the term our because that's not my station in life, but depression or, what they're calling imposter syndrome, that's the loss of identity. I don't believe I belong in a room. All of these things are things that we convince ourselves of. And I'm only speaking French for the sake of the conversation, right? Things that people convince themselves of, and they're operating in that unseen realm while they're doing this. And what they're manifesting is a life that represents the mind that they have on the matter. You understand? So us seeing him, because that's how we become the sons. That's how sons operate. They operate based on their training. They operate based on who's raising them. And so if we're actually being raised by the Father, if he's actually training us, if we're allowing ourselves to walk through the principles and the process, then the possibilities are endless. They really are. He can utilize us for so many magnificent things in the earth, right? I want to say this: divine manifestation goes beyond belief. It goes into working faith, of which the antithesis is dead faith. And a lot of people don't understand that the scripture that says faith without works is dead means that if you don't have working faith, you have no faith, right? You have none. It's dead. It's not alive. Okay. You might have the form of something, but it's dead. You understand what I'm saying? Because the form without power means it's lifeless. The people are thinking, I have faith. I just, he said, but if it don't have works, it's not alive. It doesn't exist. So it's really not faith. And the word declares that without faith, it's impossible to please Yah. Because if we are going to deal with him, we must first believe that he is. If we're going to relate to him, we got to first believe that he is. Well, why is it important to believe that he is? Because when you believe that he is, then you're going to begin to believe certain things about yourself. That is. Okay? And the reward comes from that system of believing that he is, activating your faith to believe that he is. And now you got to identify all that he is. Because this is the same Father that formed mankind in his likeness and image. So this gives us the details of who we really are. Who we really are. Let me see what you're saying over here. Do we have any questions this morning too? We're going to jump into a couple of things. What gods are the body of Yah worshiping? We need to examine ourselves and recalibrate our mind before it's too late. That's absolutely right. There are a lot of gods. A lot. The word says gods there are many, and you'll see often the Father striving with the people that he chose, saying, listen, not even these other nations do like you guys are doing. You got so many gods. You got more gods than you got people. You got more gods. And none of the other nations live like this. Only you. Got all this mixture going on. At least they're true to who they are. That's a fact, prophet. That is a fact. You want to share? You find out where my brother went.
You said that you were saying that we have to believe who Yah is. We do it. We have to believe in him so that we are able to believe who he has created us to be and who we are in him. When we believe who he is in every facet, regardless, because a lot of people don't want to believe he's the God of war. Some don't even want to believe he's the God of correction. It's all just love, 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 love. But the problem is you're one-sided, and Yah deals with balance. So we have to actually renew our minds, recalibrate our minds, pluck up everything that's been planted in it that's not right, that we have allowed to be planted, and we planted ourselves, to accept the fact that He is a God of love, yes. He's a God of peace, yes. But He's also a God of war. He's a God of correction. And He's a God of balance. And He's a God of great design, along with other things, a lot of other things. But essential ones for our personal growth, for our growth spiritually, we need to understand who He is for all of our benefits, not just some benefits, but all benefits that cause us to grow, cause us to go from glory to glory, grace to grace, cause us to be powerful, cause us to be courageous, and cause us to have a true effect in this earth. Howbeit, those that we say don't believe enough in His word to be able to transform, control, and take over dominion, because they still use scripture. They use it in the other way. They use it as a tactic. They use it in a way to be able to manipulate. And they have taken over dominion. They determine now in this timeline what will be sold in the marketplace. They have determined and have taken a large monopoly. And the only thing a lot of us do is complain, but we're not looking for the action of counter reaction. We're not at war. We do not see how to take authority, take dominion, because we don't know exactly what is written of us in the scriptures, in the book. We don't believe that we have the courage of David, have the strategy of David, have the power of Samson, has the wisdom of Solomon. We don't believe that we are capable of that. It's written of them and they were special and it was no, it's for us to verbally command the way Yeshua commanded, and to have influence the way Yeshua had influence.
My God.
My God. We don't believe. We say that was for them. We don't say it in our mind or verbally. More so, we say it with our actions and how we approach things, how we challenge things, how we stand up for things, how we say no to things, how we do what we do now. It's easier for us to control our little nucleus for self, but we don't know how to take possession of larger things outside of self, outside of our environment, outside of our own homestead. We don't even believe that charity starts at home and travel abroad, the majority of them. They don't even think about it. They just say charity outside, but then they don't have charity in home and in the homestead. So the rethinking of mindset, even the actions, because sometimes we just act upon. Like you said, the scriptures say that what seemeth right to a man. And we've been doing a whole lot of stuff that seems right, but it's causing us to move toward destruction. And in some cases, some have been destroyed. Some have given up the ghost ignorantly, being convicted in some things that they know is not right, but they have been convinced of things of the world. even down to saying that, yeah, these things are diseases and they don't accept certain things as being demonic forces. So they don't even know how to approach for the right healing. Mindset. Transforming your mind, renewing your mind, recalibrate your mind, update your mind.
Absolutely, because the mind has been hacked. In a lot of cases, and people don't recognize it's hacked. They don't recognize that. And when you start talking about this updating, and I think Pastor Shauna hit on this yesterday. She's like, well, what happens when you need to disconnect from people? Is there, yeah, sometimes the disconnection is even from our own family. And a lot of people don't understand that, nor do they believe it. Because they feel like, oh, well, this is the family I was born into. He's a God of love, and and the master said, I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword. Because there's some things I got to disconnect you from. Now, the Father allowed you to be born in this space to build you a certain way. But now I got to separate you from the space. When you think about Moshe, what did the Father allow Moshe to do? He allowed him to be trained in Pharaoh's house. He allowed him to be trained in Pharaoh's house, but he had to bring him out of there. He had to remind him of his original, his authentic person and what his purpose was. Sometimes we're so beholden to the things that are operating by another means. I'll just say it that way. Because we have the propensity to want, relationships so badly. It doesn't matter what level it's on. It could be familial. It could be any of that. We want it so bad that we're willing to compromise our peace for it. We're willing to compromise our health. And people are like, well, what do you mean? People compromise their peace and their health for the sake of being related to people that are opposite to Yah. You can't change the fact that you were born into that family, but if you have accepted the Father, then your DNA has changed and your generation should change. And a lot of times that means you have to separate yourself, because what they were in and how they dealt, it ain't how you deal. It ain't what you do. At least that's what you say. But every time we glorify a thing that is opposite of what Yah is doing, we're reinforcing the captivity. We're reinforcing the captivity. We're going to stay in that mindset of manifestation that we've always been in, because it's not until we break away from demonic allegiances. And again, sometimes those demonic allegiances have to do with our family. Those kings that were righteous kings, they were all in the line of kings, all in the succession of kings that Jeroboam was in. But the righteous kings broke off from the manner of what their father did. Matter of fact, they didn't even talk about what he did. They didn't even introduce that. They introduced a new word. They introduced a new mindset to the people. They didn't even rehearse what Jeroboam did. They introduced the word to the situation. Remember, I was talking to you guys the other day about the prophet telling the sons. He said, listen, the Rechabites, he said, listen, the father told the prophet to take them into the temple, give them wine and drink. He was telling him to take them through certain processes. And they said, our father told us that we're not supposed to ever drink wine as long as we live. Matter of fact, we never supposed to build houses. We never supposed to do this, that, or the other. And a lot of people are living out of what their forefathers told them. Even if it wasn't specifically spoken, it was caught. And now you're living out that succession. You're living out of that line of succession without even realizing that's what you're doing, because you have not turned away. You have not put that thing aside. You haven't put it aside. Oh, well, that's my mother. That's my father. I don't care who it is. The master said, if you love them more than you love me, what is he saying? You got to love the way I'm showing you to do things more than you love your family tradition, your family connection. That was just what got you in the earth, to fulfill the purpose that you're called to. So if you're crossing over into this new lineage, into this new DNA, into these new genetics, then that means you can't carry the same genetic line. You can't carry the same genes. You can't continue doing the same things. You can't even continue acknowledging certain things. You understand what I'm saying? That's like me saying, he's trying so hard. He's still on the train, y'all. He's trying. That's like me saying, my mother's a witch. And so every year on her birthday, I put her up with her witch hat on and say, I love my mother so much. But somebody would say, oh, that's so honorable. No, that's so ignorant. Why am I putting that up? Why am I putting that up as an image for people to see? Because if I love that way, then how can I love the Father and love that way? I don't love that. That's not what I love. And I don't want anybody to think that this is a way to go. So I would never do that way. Why? Doesn't mean that I hate her, naturally hate her. But I'm not going to put her image up, the image of witchcraft up for other people to see as if it's okay. Because that means I'm in allegiance with whatever they got going on, with whatever she got going on. I'm in allegiance with that. I'm showing my agreement by putting the image before you. And this is why the word says, because of this, many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. Why? Because they don't discern the true body. The true body is the body that's connected to the Mashiach. He's the head of that body. And his head, just like our mind gives the signal to the body, gives the signals to the body. And sometimes that signal says, come away from there. Come out from over there. Stop walking around that space over and over and over again. Why are you still ruminating on that? Leave that alone. You got to come out of there. You can't even honor that like that. It's hard. It seems hard to a lot of people, but it's a real space. He said, if you love mother and father more than me, you're not fit. If you could put anything before the way that I'm showing you, then you're not fit. And we saw that. The master did that many occasions. He showed us that. The rich young ruler. He said, you're going to have to go sell all your stuff and follow me. No, he said, wait a minute. Now, I've done all the other things. Remember, I was talking to you about that moral space. I've done all the commandments. I've kept all of those from my youth. Okay, great. Now sell all your stuff and follow me. Remember, I told you some stuff ain't written verbatim, but it's written. In order for you to come into the space that he's calling you into, you're going to have to abandon some things. Did not all the disciples abandon their former ways of life? Now, their households were still taken care of. Don't get it twisted. The master wasn't saying, like, most leaders do, abandon your household and leave it unkept. Right? Most church leaders do those kinds of things. They marry the father, they marry Yah's bride and leave their brides to fend for themselves and their children to fend for themselves. And Prophet Marley said this, charity starts at home. Right? We don't want that to be our first ministry. We want everything else to be the ministry. We want to go to Indonesia. We want to go all over the world and never do nothing here. Doesn't mean we're not called to other spaces, but what are we going to do here? What are we called to here? That we can manifest his glory in spaces for people to see who he is and glorify him. Whew. I never think I was going to get off of that. All right. We got some things we need to step into or to touch on before we get off of here this morning. We've already stepped into some things. I'm going to put it to you like this, because one of the things that is ultimately, I believe, the purpose of Yah in this season is to help us understand how to actualize the thing. Yeah, blind loyalty. Come on, come out of that old and the blind loyalty into Yah. That's it. is to realize that we need to actualize the thing that he's speaking to us, right? It needs to be actualized. It needs to be in real time. And you're not going to find these outcomes. This is what he spoke to me this morning. I thought this was so amazing. He said, you're not going to find these outcomes. These divine outcomes do not unfold in the alleyways of self-preservation. Because a lot of times people just trying to be in that self-preservation mode, right? We want to preserve the history, the historicity of our family, and we want to preserve. That sounds great if you got a righteous family, but you might not want to preserve the historicity of your family if you come out of a family of warlocks, because you're the cycle breaker. So now the thing begins with you. You understand what I'm saying? Remember how the Father said, this shall be the beginning of months. Now, before that, months were rolling and time was moving, and the Father changed everything because he chose a people. He chose a nation. And based on his choosing, he said, now we're going to begin. Now we're going to start something new. And that's a real thing. But a lot of people don't want to move from that space of perpetuating their family lineage. They're so beholden to that. You know, if you could find the God in, the Almighty Yah in that lineage, great, then deal with that. But if you can't identify him in that lineage, you're the beginning of that. If you so choose, you're the beginning of the next generations. Don't nobody want to know all the witchcraft that the family did. We don't need to know none of that, because we're not trying to perpetuate that. That's the first thing the Father told the people. He said, when you get into the land, don't serve me like they serve their gods. Don't do that, because I don't want that. I don't want that kind of service. He said, you're not going to find the divine outcomes in the alleyways of self-preservation, but on the eternal path of wild abandon of obedience. You understand what I'm saying? And this obedience is what is the catalyst to the faith that makes manifest this creative substance, which exceeds what we had the mind to fathom. I listen to people all the time. These people that are manifestors, they are wild manifestors. And the Bible declares that the sons of this age are wiser than the children of light. Why? Because we have access to something we don't even use, and people around us are using the principles and benefiting from these principles, but they're doing it for other purposes. They're doing it for themselves. They're not doing it as a glory to Yah. They're not doing it to glorify him. They're doing it to glorify themselves. And we'll refuse the principles. We'll refuse the principles and plead the blood instead. Yeah. We'll refuse the principles and pray in tongues instead. All of those things have a place. But they are not to replace the responsibility of us as mankind to manifest what's in the heart and mind of Yah, to be the express image of him. And that takes a place that is beyond just belief. Faith that's not working faith doesn't exist at all. We've gone through the whole little faith thing. Faith, if faith exists, it can be small. Absolutely, it can begin at it. Everything begins as a seed. I say this all the time. Everything begins as a seed. The seed could be a gigantic seed, though. It don't have to be a small one. You ever seen a mango seed? It's not quite the apple seed. You know what I'm saying? It just depends on what you're trying to grow. And so that's, the size of the seed depends on the fruit that is going to be grown. If that makes sense. Not necessarily the magnitude of the harvest, but the fruit, the particular fruit that's being grown. Prophet, I'm going to let you share.
Yes, I was in the midst of typing another long bit of information, but we have to break those break away and break from um, the habits, the acquired habits, and we have to forego the taught blind loyalties and the alliances and allegiances to old tradition or to traditions that don't serve, traditions that manipulate. We have to come out of the being okay with being manipulated. We have to identify what that is. And when you begin to identify these things that have held you back, held down, or caused you to not move fully or not to be really truly impacted. Because I'm going to say this a lot of times, because we acquire, like Apostle said, acquire membership, acquire follows, acquire numbers, acquire followers, we're thinking we're making an impact. But actually, are we? Are we seeing a change in the things that affect the masses? Not just individual personal lives, but the masses. Because on the flip side of that, they are affecting and creating and building and making and implementing things that affect the masses, but not in the way it should be, not in the way that Yah's planned. But we don't, like we said, don't speak up. We're not looking to shift or change. We're holding on to the old thing. Whose hand are you holding on to? The song says, hold to his hand. Whose hand are you holding on to?
Who
The
is
hand of tradition, the hand of blind loyalty, the hand of strongholds, the hands of bad habits, the hands of ignorance, the hands of not wanting to change. Which hand are you holding on to, really? Which hand are you trusting in? Which hand?
Yeah, because there are many others.
Are you trusting in Yah? Are you holding on to Yah's hand? To answer Apostle's question, who is him? Are you trusting in Yah? Whose hand are you trusting? Whose hand are you holding? And why is it you can't let go of the hand of these strongholds, the taught manipulation, the tradition of manipulation, let's say that, and the habits taught and acquired that are not serving us, that's not serving you, that's not serving the sons of Yah, and not serving this earth to make disciples, truly. Who hand are you choosing? Who hand are you holding? Are we holding the hand of compromise? We compromise it to do what? To save our life? For the man that seeks to save his life loses it. And we don't know, we don't even realize we're answering the question that says, choose this day whom you will serve. And daily we make that choice on whom we're going to serve based on what we do, how we do, when we do, and not acknowledge who we're doing it for, who name we come in, what grounds are we standing on, what banner are we under, who are we representing. We can say we represent, but truly are our actions and our deeds and the things that are manifesting in the earth, who are we actually serving? Are we serving a God of old, or are we truly serving Yah? When we answer those questions within ourselves, then we're able to break the strongholds and everything else that's in our mind that we have projected in our physical, that we have lived out. Whether it be the minute and the mundane, we can actually take all of those things and bring it under captivity truly. Because through the might of God, we tear down what? Strongholds. And everything that rises itself against the knowledge of Yah, we can bring it to captivity. But are we willing to do the work to bring it under captivity so that way we can be different? Our minds can be new. Our minds, the ground can be fresh to be harvested, to bear good fruit, to reap.
All right,
All right, I'm here.
look, I'm assuming you're taking a station identification. Prophet, that was a long sea lie. I'm gonna let you back in. I wanted to address. We definitely are called to all of the above, Apostle Joanne. Um, Influencers is who we are. The term influencer began in the kingdom. We are to influence men. Persuasion is a form of influence. We are to persuade men into a way of life. And so I do understand what you're talking about as far as the way that influencers are set up. You know, they are willing to do anything for the numbers, all of that kind of thing. But I wanted it to be very clear that we are influencers and we are called to speak and to motivate and to help activate mankind. All of these things are necessary. The spirit behind what we do is to influence a culture for our king. If we're operating from his spirit, then it's for the purpose of influencing a culture on behalf of the king. And there are many facets of administration and many gifts. These are the things that are how we operate in that is based on the call and the people that we're assigned to. Father has need of us in all kinds of spaces. You know, every space that we go into, we won't be quoting Bible verses, but because we have become a living epistle, and this is the book that we live from, this is the lifestyle that we live, and everything that we say will be laced with his word. The spirit of who he is what we're releasing when we say what we're saying, even in a boardroom, even in a meeting with investors, wherever we are, because we are laced with it's woven into the fibers of our very being. We can't even get away from who we are as sons. I'm not trying to, but there are places that I go into and I never have to say a Bible verse, but people know who I am. I could be talking about something completely different. I could be talking about health or anything, but they identify me because of the spirit of who I am. And I'm simply sharing wisdom on health. I'm simply sharing wisdom on relationship or, marriage or child raising. When I go teach children, I don't beat them over the head with the Bible. I do not. Because the first thing that a child has to do is have relationship with the people that are in their environment, and they follow by relationship. The thing that the adversary has done is he wants to separate the people out of the relationship and make us give them stuff. It's the same thing when we're buying them off. It's the same thing when people do things from that spiritual aspect in the industrial complexes of religion and church. I'm going to give you 1,000 verses. I want you to know all the verses, all the books of the Bible in the next 30 days. Let me tell you something. Knowing the books of the Bible, I knew all of those since I was very young. I quoted a lot of scripture, and none of that kept me out of nobody's bed in my teens. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It's relational first. So what we're relating to and the willingness to be relational, I'm learning and I'm growing from what I'm learning from the person that I'm supposed to be learning it from. The master didn't give those disciples all of the prophets and the law. That's not what he was teaching them. He was teaching them principles on how to become the epistle. Not one time do we see that he sat down with them and said, okay, now we're going to read through Genesis. We're going to talk about Genesis today. No, he was an example of the express image of who the Father was. He gave them the principles, and then they had a hunger. They had a hunger. We know Paul came out of the Pharisaical complex, okay? So he understood on a different level what the law and the prophets look like. But they had a hunger to become. He allowed them to become, and as they became, then they began to be hungry, hungrier, and identify, what this law and the prophets really is. They began to be able to disseminate things and to rightly divide. But they had to become. It had to be an intentional decision on their part to become sons, to follow a way. The Mashiach became the living way that was written. That's what they followed. They didn't just have the letter. They had the spirit of the letter right in front of them. And so they walked in the manner of the spirit of the letter. It was like hands-on training. It's like having the manual and going through training versus being OJT with the person that is the trainer, taking you through all the steps, showing you how everything works, showing you how to do the job. Divine outcomes. They don't happen in the alleyways of self-preservation. A lot of people are not willing to come out of the alleyway. They're still so busy trying to preserve, self-preserve. Hold on to that little bit that I got left. No, just go ahead and die. Go ahead and let it go. You at the bottom already. You ain't got nowhere else to go but up. Go ahead and let it go. Go ahead and cry it out if you feel like, sometimes divorcing ourselves from family, divorcing ourselves from these different things, it makes us cry. But if that's what it takes for you to become the son that you need to become to be able to express his image in the earth, that's where you have to go. Oftentimes, the Father will allow us to go back and retrieve some things. Joseph was completely separated from his family. Completely. But he was able to retrieve them at the end of the thing. But he had to be completely separated in order to go and become what he needed to become. Or else he was no good to himself or the generations after. He was the one that spoke the word into their life that you're going to leave here. And when you leave, take my bones with you. They had to go through that time of slavery that was prophesied to Abraham. But Joseph prophesied the end. The word was given to Abraham, they're going to go through. And the word was given to Joseph, they're going to come out. But they were there. Generations were born in that captive place. But it took a son that came out of them that had to be separated. See, we're still talking about separation. That had to be separated from them in order to have a different mind. He had seen some things. He became aware of some things, but he had to be separated from them on more than one occasion. He was separated from birth. He was kept about 3 months. 3 to 6 months, she was able to keep him and hide him. After she couldn't keep him and hide him no more, she had to put him in that basket and pitch it with tar in and out. Put him in that ark. We got this next scenario of the ark. All of these things are coming out of an unseen realm. To know to do these things comes out of the unseen realm. To be able to manifest from this place of the unseen realm. It's a mystery to so many, but it's not a mystery when you're in relationship. It's not far from you to understand. I've got to let some stuff go. I've got to let some stuff go because I can't carry, thank you, Elder, I can't carry the legacy of the family. I can't carry that because that wasn't a godly legacy. That wasn't a righteous legacy. I had a woman of God tell me, she said, the Father's going to give you the house of your mother. She's not talking about the natural house. There are things that the Father gives us that come from the thing because they had influence. They had a certain way that they carried themselves that was able to have them gain certain traction. You know what I'm saying? And maybe they did it on another side of the fence. The Father will release to you the ability to have that traction, but he's going to do it on his side, on his terms, you know, on his terms. This was not the way that I thought this was going to go today, but this was a conversation that I am certain that we needed to have. And I'm surprised you guys didn't have more questions today, but I want to delve into some other things in this manifested mind piece. We just have to understand what we are producing is a result of the seed that we are receiving. And, you know, just like when you go to the doctor and they ask you all these lineage questions, right? Some people are thinking, well, it's probably smartest to answer the questions according to what they're asking me. I don't answer those questions according to that because I'm not seeking to know what everybody had. I'm doing something different. So I'm the person that's changing the trajectory of the family. I'm the person that's breaking the cycle. So what I have is what the generations are going to have, not what they had, because I'm changing the dynamic. So when they ask me, is it any heart disease in my family bloodline? It's absolutely not. My bloodline is changed. It's changed. It's not the same bloodline. Any diabetes? Not in my bloodline. I'm in a divine bloodline. Now, some people can't handle that. They're like, well, you know, we just got to deal with it from a natural. Well, you stay natural and I'm going to stay where I'm at because this is what works for me. You understand what I'm saying? You stay in flesh and I'll stay in spirit because spirit is the lifeline to the sons of Yah. Flesh is the death line. Spirit is the lifeline. Okay? We've got to change our mind about how we see. We got to change our mind. I'm going to leave this with you. If you had a choice in your vacation to decide between a shabby hotel room and a luxury resort, 5-star, I'm sure that the resort would be what you choose with all the perks and amenities because it naturally takes precedence. The reasoning is clear. Why would you settle for less when you have the means to indulge in a more enjoyable and fulfilling experience? This is what we have to identify with in the kingdom, that everything has been provided for us. And why would we choose less when he's given us more? I love you. We'll see you in the morning. Body's not a me thing. It's a we thing. I love y'all. Peace.